Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time I wanted to highlight a post on the League of Legends news page talking about the preseason for Season 4 and some of the changes they're going to make. This is pertinent to some of the discussions that I've been having on my channel. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I'm talking about. So specifically, I got to get a cover or a thumbnail for that video. What am I doing? But specifically the improving champ select and improving support, making it more interesting. This is very, very pertinent to that discussion. So let's talk about some of the changes that are going to be happening. A lot of big things are going to be changing in terms of the way that supports play. And a lot of changes are going to be placing on vision and wards. So a lot of this is impacting the role of supports. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these things. A new vision and trinket system. So they said they finally want to shift vision away from being a gold race to more of a strategic part of the game. Strategic is really the key choice here, the key word to kind of highlight where this is going. So a new item slot specialized for vision items per player, ward limits, and more ward options. So these specific things are kind of what I want to talk about. These, I think, are fantastic. So right now, perhaps you guys maybe aren't aware of this if you play a lot of normals or if you're in very low or elo, but in, I would say, higher elo and more competitive play, vision is extremely important. Vision basically gets to the point where if your team gains an early lead, gets some early map control, maybe an early dragon, it gives you, especially taking the early mid tower and getting the first dragon. Those two things in particular can really snowball a game out of control simply with vision. Because if one team gains the upper hand with vision, they're able to snowball that into more and more of a lead. And it's very much a cyclical thing, where if you get vision, you're able to get picks, you're able to get objectives, excuse me, and you're able to get pink wards, you're able to get oracles, so then you can also deny the enemy team a vision. If the enemy team is denied a vision, they're going to be playing very passively. They're not going to be able to get picks, they're not going to be able to get objectives, and so this makes it just is a very snowball-y type thing where, once one support gains a little bit more gold and is able to kind of snowball the vision in their team's favor, the game just kind of ends. And it also kind of creates a bit of I think especially in competitive play, kind of the vision choking out strategy can make the game very stale because, watching ward battles isn't very interesting. It's not very intriguing. There's not a lot of counterplay. It's either, one team has more wards than the other, and so they win. But when you look at some of these things, so specialized vision items, I don't know exactly what that means, but I think that would probably be an expansion on the Sightstone. And so making the Sightstone better, I've heard different theories about what you can do about making the Sightstone, making a tier 3 Sightstone. So right now you have a blue Sightstone, which is tier 1, then a tier 2 Sightstone, which is your red, or your ruby, and that gives you, 2 and 3 charges respectively. Well, what if the Sightstone, I think one of the changes they were saying is that it builds, instead of out of a ruby crystal, it builds out of a gold per 5 item. And the gold per 5 is, instead of being like a flat GP5, it's more of a, instead of just passively giving you gold per minute, what it will do is it will siphon a percentage of the gold that is accumulated around you into, so if your AD carry is getting 100 CS, it'll give you a percentage of that income as gold per 5, which makes sense because then it doesn't become overpowered for junglers or laners. It really only works for supports, which is a really cool adaptation. So it can't be abused in any non-intended way. It makes it very specific for supports. And I've heard other theories about, what if there was a Sightstone that was, a tier 3, where you had a couple of different choices and it allowed for different gameplay options, where maybe you had one Sightstone that instead of giving you 5 charges and 3 active wards at a time, what if it bumped it up to 7 charges with 5 active wards at a time? Or what if there was a Sightstone that provided a lot more tankiness? It still gave you the 5 charges, 3 wards active, but it also gave you a bunch of armor and health, magic resist, tenacity, whatever you want to say, for somebody like a Leona or Thresh who wants to get in the mix and be tanky. Or what if the Sightstone, I've even heard one idea where you pay a ton of gold to upgrade your Sightstone so that it will provide true sight for 10 seconds every time you place a ward. So it's as if you have, you're getting pink wards just for those first 10 seconds that you place your wards. Little things like that to kind of make Sightstone something that works a little bit better throughout the mid and late game, where if supports, because once you get your Ruby Sightstone, which is sometimes an item that you rush as a support, especially on supports that aren't very mana intensive, that don't really need to get the Philosopher's Stone for the sustain. Excuse me. It can be a really good choice. So the next thing will be per player ward limits. I think this is a fantastic choice. This will impact competitive play because it will relieve the warding burden from one person to entire teams. So now the entire team will need to buy wards. And think about it. If your support buys, 6 wards to just blanket Dragon, well, then your top laner maybe won't have any available wards, or your mid laner may not have any wards. So it creates a lot of cool counterplay options where if you decide to blanket one half of the map in vision, you're going to be blacked out in the other half. So it just it really puts a premium on choices of where you... So placing a ward isn't just about having a bunch of wards in your inventory and placing them down in every brush you see. It's about very strategically planning where you want to have your vision. And more ward options. So what does that mean? I'm assuming that means more than just green and pink wards. So you have other kinds of wards, maybe a ward that lasts longer, or maybe a ward that can't be destroyed by True Sight. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think this is very exciting. And I also think that this specifically, per player ward limits, will have a big impact on solo queue. Especially at higher elos right now, supports. I know there are some games where I'm in gold, which isn't that terribly high, but there are some games where I'll buy boots 2, Sightstone, maybe Philosopher's Stone, and then from there I'll just buy consumables. I'll have constant oracles, and then maybe 5 to 10 green wards in my other 2 slots. So I'm buying so many consumables, but this changes it so that no longer can you just, especially like if you're playing carry positions like mid or AD carry, positions that don't typically buy a lot of wards. Well, you have to change that now. You have to buy wards because it's a per player ward limit. So if every person on your team buys 5 wards, then you have a ton of vision. Whereas if only one player on your team buys wards, then you're going to be very limited. So I think these are good. Very, very good. Will definitely change the way that support is played, and I'm very excited about these changes. A new jungle is inbound, so including new items for carry-style junglers. So right now the meta is that junglers are tanky. They are kind of like a slightly better version of a support, where if you watch LCS play, a lot of times they'll get to about 80 or 100 CS, and that's pretty much it. And a lot of times they're focused entirely on early game. So like you've got Jarvan, Lee Sin, that are very, very popular because they're extremely strong early game. They don't need a lot of farm to be powerful. But new items for carry-style junglers, I think, is very intriguing. Better rewards and gold flow, and a new 4th monster. So even more gold is in the jungle itself. That will provide new routes and strategies. So I think this is the big part, opening up the jungle role to more champions. So instead of these tanks and champions that don't really need a lot of gold to be powerful, you have the potential for more carry-style junglers. Very interested to see what this means. And also I think it kind of will open up the possibility of champions who very much struggle in the early laning phase to have a way to gain gold very safely and scale into the mid and late game. If there's more gold in the jungle, it allows for more possibilities. So I think this is good. I'm very curious to see how this is, but I think potentially this is a point that has the possibility to cause problems, because I think the more gold you put in the jungle, if you watch a lot of mid laners, a lot of times they will farm the jungle just as much as the jungler. They'll go and take Wraiths and Wolves over and over again in between minion waves. And so I think that what if there's even more gold in the jungle, well then those mid laners can get even bigger even faster, which I don't think is the intention. So I will be very interested to see how they make this work. And also with carry style items, I'm curious to know how they will make those items, not overpowered for laners as well. Like I know with the Sightstone items, a lot of times, especially when Spirit of the Elder Lizard was very strong, you'd see a lot of laners pick it up as well, because they're very gold efficient. So I'm curious to see how that works. Support gold is going to be adjusted. So basically supports are getting more gold, which is a primary argument that I made in one of my other videos. And so very, very excited to see exactly how they do this. And I think this is a very important part. We're making changes to help support champions scale their utility instead of their damage. So I think I heard an example of this that Janna, if she buys more ability power, not only will it make her shield stronger, but it will also increase the amount of attack damage that it gives to the wearer of the shield. Or think about Nami. She's got like movement speed buffs, I think, on her passive. And also the on hit, from her E, I think. So the utility of their kit will be increased with the gold that they get. So instead of just buying damage or defensive items, they're actually scaling utility, which I think is very, very curious and interesting. So I think this is very, very cool. Very, very good. Scaling utility is something I think that makes a lot of sense, but hasn't really been explored in League of Legends yet. So this, I think, is very curious. Reduced team snowballing. So changing tower and first blood rewards, very, very good. I've always thought that first blood can be a little bit stupid. Like, I just played a game as Aatrox against a Riven, and there was kind of a cheesy level 1 gank by their Twitch. Twitch was like their jungler. It was very weird, and he just came out of nowhere, ganked. Riven got the kill, and she just snowballed the game from there. There was really nothing that I could do. She got first blood gold, she got the wave, and I was done. Like, there was nothing that I could do to come back from that. The game had snowballed from that point. But changing that a little bit, I think, could be very, very good. I just think that this is very interesting. And the key here is that it will reward good play. So it will allow people to have the opportunity to come back if they make good plays, rather than you just kind of are in this point where you have to play very passively and wait for them to make a mistake, and oftentimes that won't necessarily happen, and you're just kind of done. So I think this is very good. Snowballing is aggravating. One decision or good play early on shouldn't dictate the rest of the game. You should have continuous opportunities for counterplay and the ability to come back. So I think that this is good. I mean, obviously, if you make a good play early, it should give you a lead, but it shouldn't be an insurmountable lead, and I think that that's the thing that they're targeting here, is making it possible to come back. And so outer game strategy, changing runes and masteries. Masteries will be revamped. So not going to do a significant mastery rebalance, which I think is fine. I don't actually think that runes and masteries are in a problem state right now. Okay, I think that the thing here is creating more dynamic and balanced rune options. So I think right now runes are a little bit pigeonholed, and the most powerful runes are a little bit established. So creating different options, I think, would be nice, especially allowing you to focus on your matchup. I think would be very good. Tailoring your runes to your matchup would be kind of cool. So I think these are good changes. Specifically, I think these changes are really, really good with the wards. The snowballing thing is something I'm very curious. And the changes to the jungle, I think, are going to be very important. But I'm a little bit interested to see where they go with that. So, anyways, I'm going to keep an eye on this, and I'll continue to do news updates. Let me know Let me start that one over. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think of these kind of news updates and my thoughts on them, and possibly I'll do more of these videos in the future. And I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.